What's going on, everyone? So, this chair is hella squeaky and hella just. Ugh. So, obviously, as you can see, I am in a new place now. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I have been kind of not uploading. But in reality, if I'm really being honest with you guys, it's because of two factors. So, number one, just in general, just being lazy. Like, I have a lot of raw footage of me running this entire program. Like, literally, pretty much, I recorded it pretty much every single time I went to the gym, but I just got so lazy about uploading it. So, I mean, I'm probably just going to delete all that footage because I don't really want to dwell on the past anymore. I want to move towards the future. And I just wanted to show you guys this particular week because it is the test week. You can see how my maxes have increased on the big three. The second reason is because, obviously, the stress of moving and the end of the semester, and it's just, I'm sort of transitioning into life on my own for kind of the first time. It's just kind of an adjustment period for me. Hopefully this leads to much more fruitful things in the future, like especially physique goal related things. That's another reason I haven't uploaded, because I've just been in general kind of embarrassed about the fact that I haven't really done anything. But first of all, we're not going to dwell on it. Second of all, it will be a main priority moving forward. 100%. I'm not giving up. We are going to quickly run through this test week. So, first, let's lay the groundwork for the TSA Intermediate version 1 testing week. About a week out, you hit your openers for a single. Actually, for the deadlift, you had 3 singles, but none of the lifts that I hit the previous week I actually used as my opener. I went a little bit heavier on those just because I'm sort of figuring out still how to approach test weeks, especially if I'm trying to simulate like a meet type of setting, because I know that there is a bit of an art to testing your 1-rep maxes, especially in a meet, and like the traditional, small jumps into a max may not necessarily be the play. You see a lot of people, they take pretty substantial jumps when they go for their meets. Like, they'll take 20 kilo jumps at some point. My jumps were very, they were kind of consistent. At least, especially for the squat, they were very consistent jumps. But they were very much close together. Like, they were like 15-pound jumps, which would only be like 7.5 kilos. So they were very, very close together. Maybe not the best play. Again, I'm still trying to figure out how to test. So we're going to have to experiment with some of that kind of stuff moving forward. I did only take 3 attempts. Next time I test, I'm not going to limit myself to 3. I'm going to probably try to push a little bit harder. And if that means more than 1 attempt, or more than 3 attempts, that'll be fine. If it means only 1, then that is what it is. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. So we are starting with the squat here, and I think this first attempt was 335 pounds. So one of the things that I did during this period was pretty much every single lift during this test week was the heaviest thing that I ever hit. So pretty much I was guaranteeing myself a PR on everything except for the bench press. And as you can see, that 335 moved really, really fucking well. Super happy. The squat was probably my most confident going into this test week. I put on 350 for the second attempt, and it moved really, really well as well. This was originally going to be my 1-rep max. Reality was, in absolute weight terms, I had not hit anything above 320 pounds. This is kind of where I didn't follow the rules of the program so much, but I was confident that I was going to be good for 350 because of a couple reasons. Number one, the last time I tested my 1 rep max on the squat was a very, very long time ago. In fact, I haven't tested 1 rep max strength on the squat, I want to say, since 2019. So it's been that long. Number two, when I hit 320 on Jeff Nippard's powerbuilding program, which was in December of last year, so December of 2020, that was at best an RP 9, or I guess at worst technically. And it really didn't feel like anything less than 8. Challenging, but very doable. So again, another shoe-in that I was good for 350. I thought I was good for 350 at the end of that program. So that program would have finished probably around January. So I thought I was good for 350 then. The problem was, of course, if you remember, I got injured. And, ever since I got injured, my confidence on squats has been shaky. So I decided to be very, very conservative when coming into this program. So obviously, as you can see, I loaded up 365 as my final attempt. And I'm actually kind of disappointed with the fact that this is my final attempt. Now, you'll see that I hit it, and it does go slow. There is a little bit of a sticking point there, but I hit it pretty smoothly. That is why I'm disappointed that it was my final attempt, because I personally believe that I was good for, I think at least 375. I should have put 10 more pounds on there because I think I was good for it. But, like I said, confidence issue, and especially just the anxiety about getting injured again. That's why I left a lot on the table there when it came to squats. Bench has kind of taken a little bit of a hit. I've had to self-unrack. I've self-unracked 3 plates, which is what you're about to see. And it was really, really tough. And it really messed with what I believe was like my perceived strength on the bench press, which is okay because I figured my bench is going to take a hit eventually, and it was not going to be as fast of progress as my lower body lifts because it's so far ahead of them. But I don't know. You guys would just look at this. So basically, this is 315. This is my opener for bench, which is 10 pounds over what it was last week. And as you can see, I've had to self-unrack, and I've had to basically do the entire bench myself. And that 315 did not move the way that I wanted it to. Like, I was expecting a lot more speed with that lift. If 315 was my previous max, I might not have jumped like to the point that I jumped to. Like, I might have gone up by like 5 or 10 pounds instead of going up 15 to my old max, which was 330. But also you'll notice that I've belted for these benches, and that's twofold. Number one, I wanted to see if it made a difference because I belted in the past for benching and overhead pressing, and to me it didn't feel like that much different. So that's why I haven't done it, but I figured I'm going to give it a shot now, and I do think it probably makes a little bit of a difference. It makes self-unracking a bit easier, which is the second reason I belted, was because I thought it was going to make self-unracking a bit easier, just because I could increase the neuromuscular efficiency and all that science bullshit. It would basically help me not lose so much on the unrack, because I cannot use my previous starting position because I don't have the assister arms. Anyway, we're going to move on to the to 330, which is my previous PR. I asked a friendly gym goer to help me with the unrack, and once again, man, this 330 did not move the way that I wanted it to. Now, I do believe, really quickly, I know I keep pausing and talking about these lifts, but I do believe that the 330 in this particular attempt moved like just a little bit better than the previous 330, which is my first time benching 330. I wanted to move up 5 pounds, and I felt like I can't not attempt 335. So I got another person to help me out, and I hit it. Well, I'm going to spoil it. I hit 335, and it almost moved better than 330 did. But the difference was pretty negligible. They moved about the same. And this is another instance in which I think that there is probably about 5-ish more pounds on the table that I left. But in this instance versus the squat, I think it's okay because I didn't want to push the bench too hard. This was definitely a 9.5, if not a 10, and I did not want to risk failing, because that would shatter me, I know for a fact. So I hit a 5-pound PR at a bench that's over 3 plates. I think I'm okay with that. Also on this day, this is not a power lift, but I did go ahead and throw an overhead press test in here. I wasn't supposed to test overhead press. It was supposed to be a 3 to 5 rep max. So basically the way the week works was the squats was like a 1 to 3 rep max, and then you do some chest supported rows. And then on this day, you do a bench 1 to 3 rep, and then an overhead press 3 to 5 rep max. But I decided to test the overhead press because I wanted to test the overhead press. There's no reason, I just wanted to do it. And the third day, which we'll talk about when we get to it, but that was the deadlift test, and then close grip 3 to 5 reps. So as you can see, this first was with 185 pounds, and I misgrooved, and then I really struggled with it. But I know this is gonna sound like really bad here, like an excuse, but I actually blame that rack that I was in. I don't know what about it, what made it so awkward, but unracking from that particular rack was very difficult, and it could have been me. Like, I could have just not been in a good position when I unracked. But I just think that rack in general was just not, it wasn't good, and it made it very difficult to unrack. So I moved to a different rack, the same racks that I squat in, and you're gonna see the difference. So this is 195 pounds, just 10 pounds over. This would have been a 5-pound PR, by the way, because the heaviest overhead press I'd ever hit was 190, and as you can see, it moved up a lot faster, a lot more smooth. So, I'm not bullshitting you here when I say that rack was kind of whack. Bars. Either that or I just unracked like an idiot. But anyway, I stayed here. I decided to test the ultimate 200-pound overhead press, which was a year goal for me. And you guys, I'm going to leave the raw audio in for this.
Yes! Yes! Two, 0, 0. Pitch!
So as you can see, I was a little bit excited because a 200-pound overhead press was something that I had been kind of chasing for a while. And I was pleasantly surprised because I hadn't done any overhead press specialization since I injured my knee, which was in the late summer of last year. And that was the last time I really focused on the overhead press, and I missed 200 twice during that period. So it was very nice to get in there and hit that lift. So moving on to the final day, we got deadlifts. As you can see, we got the skittle plates loaded up here. This is 385 pounds. This was what I had programmed in as my 1 rep max. Now, the actual heaviest deadlift that I had ever hit was this year. It was 365 pounds. So an absolute PR of 20 pounds. This gym does not allow chalk. I never can join a gym that just allows chalk. So I figured, well, it's a test week. I don't really want to leave anything up to chance. I'm just going to go ahead and pull with straps. So that was 385 pounds. There's a little bit of a ramp at the very end there. I'm like struggling to figure out how to avoid that because I feel like I've made good strides to avoid that in the past. But like there's just this tendency for me to want to push my knees out, and I cannot. I gotta figure out like if there's a mental cue that I can use to make sure that I never do that, because I do not want to get called on that in comp. That would be embarrassing as fuck. Anyway, moving on to the second down attempt, almost to the final attempt, because it technically was, but this was 405 pounds. Guys, your boy made it. It only took him motherfucking 3 years to barely squeak out this 405 deadlift, man. Like, and you could see my frustration at the end of that, because again, I know that I ramped it. I was so upset because I was like, man, I just lifted 405. This should have happened eons ago, and yet I ramped it at the very, very end again. But I'm finally out of the novice hump, I guess you could call it. Yeah, there are people who achieve 405 in like their first year, so it's a little embarrassing. And hitting 405 on the deadlift was super, super important to me, because that officially solidified my total at 1100 even. So now I officially have an 1100 pound total, which doesn't really mean anything anymore, but it was just a nice round number to get. You know, I'm now 1100, haha. And then just for fun, I put 425 on the bar. I didn't think I was going to hit it, and I lifted it, and I knew that it was not there. So that is that for the footage. Now you may be asking yourself, wait a minute, didn't you mention there was a close grip 3 to 5 rep max that you were supposed to test? I did not end up testing the close grip 3 to 5 rep max. I didn't even do the lift at all. And here's why. 2 reasons. Number 1, the previous week, I hit 305 pounds on the close grip for a double. And that double was at the very best an RP 9. So I figured that's probably going to be my 3 rep max. I close gripped so much weight during this program because all the close grip sets were based off of RPE versus the regular bench sets were based off of percentage. Even towards the end, they were usually equal. Like I usually would put the same weight that I did for my regular bench work as my close grip. So throughout the entire period, they were equivalent. Now, that may have been a mistake because there were a couple of times where I tended to overshoot on the bench work, especially the heavy stuff. So like things got muddy, and I really hope I didn't screw my bench progress up because of that. The second reason is because I actually had somewhere to go after this workout. So I was like, well, I don't want to be super late. So I didn't test the close grip. I just kind of dipped. That's it for test week. We tested all of the lifts. Let's talk about PRs. The heaviest squat that I hit on this program was 325 pounds, which was already a 5-pound PR. Over 320, which was the heaviest squat that I had hit previous to this. So if we take 325 as my previous PR, which was hit 1 week prior to this 365, that means I added a total of 40 pounds to my squat. We only added 5 pounds to the bench, which was a bit disappointing, but at the same time, I'm totally cool with that. I have a 335 pound bench. I'm not going to complain about that. And a deadlift, we finally reached a 4-plate deadlift, even though I technically did use 4 plates, but they weren't 445s, which also is a 40-pound increase because the previous max I hit was 365. So in total, we added 85 pounds to the total in 8 weeks, pretty much 9 weeks technically. That was the test week. That was TSA's intermediate. I do definitely regret not uploading. I'm really sorry about that, guys. But I do have a new series planned, and hopefully this will get me back into the groove of editing and uploading videos again. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Did hit 200-pound overhead press as well. Just want to slide that in there at the very end. Doesn't contribute to the total, but it is still pretty cool. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to catch you guys in the next video. And yeah, I'll be back uploading more regularly starting now.